Right now on Denver 7 News at 6, it's debt decision time. A huge financial relief is coming today for millions of Americans.
We're kind of in uncharted territory a little bit.
The president will try to cancel some student loan debt, but can he? This morning, the legal hurdles already popping up.
Gas that's better for the air we breathe, but tougher on your wallet.
I'm Denver 7's Christian Lopez. I'm breaking down a new proposal to bring more expensive gas that would cut down on emissions.
Russell Wilson is ready to show Broncos country what he's got against his old team, but the Seahawks still haven't picked his replacement, the familiar face who's up for the job.
And age doesn't grind their gears.
I've been doing it for 90 years, maybe.
We're introducing you to a dedicated group of volunteers fixing bikes for people in need. Can't wait to see that. First, we have to show you this video. Our crew captured not one, but two meteors flying across the sky. Look at that. That's a shooting star right there, right? A Cloudbait Observatory recorded 5 meteors since about 5:30 p.m. yesterday to 2:30 a.m. today. Make
Wow,
a wish.
I'm mesmerized by that.
Cool.
Yeah, make a
Another
wish.
reason to have a dash cam.
I know,
That's true,
yeah.
yeah. And take a look at this beautiful sunrise over downtown from our Mile High camera. Gives you an idea of the start to the day. If you're headed to school or bike riding out there, really nice.
It's good. Yeah, no complaints on this Wednesday. Yesterday was pretty perfect. Pretty nice.
Yeah.
We're going to repeat today. There will be a few more storms here later in the week. We'll talk more about that coming up. But yeah, right now you're stepping out the door to sunshine, dry conditions early on. We're in the low to mid 60s right now. And from this view here at City Park, it's clear, it's quiet. Here's that bus stop forecast. We're going to be in the low to mid 60s here this morning. If your kids want to bike or walk to school, it's a really good day to do it. T-shirt, shorts, sunscreen, water bottle. We're going to be at about 88 degrees by the time they get home this afternoon. So pretty warm. We'll get a few clouds at that point, but expecting, again, some sunshine. Isolated storm or two for the mountains. Closer to 90 from Denver, north up to Fort Collins and Greeley. We're going to be in the low to mid 80s, closer to spots like Castle Rock, southern edge of the metro area, but again, pretty dry today. Now, fast forward to tomorrow afternoon. There's going to be a better chance that we'll see a few of these storms roll east over town, and we could see some wet conditions late Thursday. We'll talk more about that, and I'll have your full Super 7-day forecast for the weekend coming up.
The big headache right now on the drive is out to the east side of town. We had late construction on I-70 and Pena Boulevard. That is all dissipated, so that's why Pena Boulevard looks good and I-70 looks good. What doesn't look good is here on northbound 225, trying to get from between Colfax and I-70.
Okay.
Let me show you the closest camera at 17th, and you can see how traffic is just badly backed up for us this morning from that camera where the traffic is just creeping along. Now, it started with a northbound crash, and there was a southbound crash, and then a secondary northbound crash. So all of that activity is really hampering the northbound side. And from the drive time all the way back now to Alameda, Mississippi, about a half an hour in here. Some of the side roads, Peoria, Havana, Chambers, all the usual suspects up to I-70 can help you get through there a little bit faster. And the drive times on Pena Boulevard look pretty back to normal as we're looking at all the construction wrapped up.
Well, millions of Americans are waiting to learn if some or even all of their student loan debt will be canceled. Today, President Biden is expected to announce a plan to forgive up to $10,000 for borrowers earning less than $125,000 a year.
So we looked into how this would affect us here in Colorado. Student Loan Hero crunched the numbers here. Nearly a third of borrowers in our state would have their entire student debt eliminated because they owe $10,000 or less. Those with remaining loans would still get a lot of help here. They would owe less than a third of their remaining total.
Want to bring in Jessica Crawford this morning because she talked to a loan expert about what to do next if you get $10,000 knocked off your balance.
Yeah, and this is advice that some people might not want to hear because it's wait and see, and that's what we've been doing for a long time, waiting and seeing. Well, in addition to the debt forgiveness, the Biden administration is also expected to extend the pause on repayments for another few months. So that gives you time to figure out what this will mean for the type of loans that you have, because let's face it, it's been more than 2 years since you've had to log into that account. You might have forgotten the password even. A loan expert that I spoke with earlier this morning says 10 grand will go a long way for most borrowers.
Broadly speaking, it'll depend a lot on what your individual financial situation is. For example, if you do get $10,000 of forgiveness and you're not left with that much student loan debt, maybe $1,000, a couple $1,000, for some people it might make sense to just pay it off right away. But if it's between paying extra interest and paying your rent or buying groceries, you're probably 9 times out of 10 going to want to pay your rent or buy groceries.
But I've got to caution, this is not a done deal just yet. President Biden pushed Congress to do something about loan forgiveness because it has the power of the purse, and the move is expected to cost $300 billion, about half of the annual defense budget. Congressional efforts have failed, and multiple attorneys general have asserted that Biden can do this under the Higher Education Act of 1965. But the move could still be challenged in court, and we don't have to look too far for other examples of where the Biden administration was overruled. For example, a CDC extension of the pandemic eviction moratorium was defeated, and the court shot down plans for OSHA to require a COVID vaccine or test program for private businesses. So there are already some questions that are coming up about that $10,000, including whether you could be left with a big tax bill.
Right, if it's taxable income.
Right.
Right, and we do not want to be left with that. So I checked, and the American Rescue Plan includes a provision making nearly all student loan forgiveness tax-free, at least temporarily.
All right.
All of this in time for midterm elections. All right, thank you, Jessica. Well, who will benefit the most from this expected forgiveness plan? The answer might be women, and more specifically, Black women. According to data from the American Association of University Women, women borrow on average $2,000 more compared to men. Black women borrow the most, taking out on average more than $41,000 to pay for college. Kyle Southern with the Institute for College Access says eliminating some of that debt can have a real effect on advancing racial equity.
More and more people of color have taken on more and more student debt. And so at every level, we find how that makes it even more difficult to achieve financial stability and to start to grow wealth. And so higher education is supposed to be the engine for opportunity. And too often it's functioned to only perpetuate the inequalities we see so often in society.
Also overnight, the president of the NAACP slammed the loan forgiveness plan of $10,000, saying that's not enough, especially for Black people. The group is asking the president to cancel at least $50,000.
Well, people in public service are getting some help separately on their loans. The Department of Education slashed about $10 billion in debt for that specific group. It impacts more than 175,000 people. In part, this was a program to attract more people to work in public service. And this is also sort of separate here, but related, more on that payment forbearance. The president is expected to extend the pause on repayments through January. The current moratorium was set to expire a week from today. So people are going to have more time before they have to pay back those loans. We'll be watching for the big announcement from the White House. You can stay with us on the air on thedenverchannel.com or on the Denver 7 Plus app on your streaming device.
New this morning, the FBI is investigating whether a former Child Protective Services worker manipulated the system to get custody of an ex-partner's child. The Denver Gazette reports agents have interviewed witnesses and collected evidence, citing sources close to the investigation of Robin Nicita. If the name sounds familiar, she was the partner of Aurora's former police chief when she allegedly made false child abuse allegations against an Aurora City Council member. The council member was a critic of former police chief Vanessa Wilson. Just as our gas prices start to come down, a proposal to sell a more expensive fuel blend could cost Colorado drivers extra. Denver 7's Christian Lopez joins us live with this option and why it could be required across the Denver metro.
And gas prices at this gas station that we're at in Denver this morning are right around the national average of $3.82, a little bit more expensive if you use your credit card, but it is 10 cents cheaper than what we saw last week. So I know an increase is the last thing we want to hear right now, but this is really about helping the environment. Colorado Public Radio reports that drivers across the state could have to pay for a more expensive gas that is aimed at reducing harmful emissions. So if you've lived in Colorado for a while, you know that the smog problem tends to get a lot worse during those summer months. But the alternative blend that could add as much as another 51 cents onto a gallon. Governor Polis has made it clear that he intends to fight this federal rule that would require it. And there is also an option to opt out if states meet certain requirements. But if the Front Range's air quality is downgraded to severe, then Colorado would not be eligible for this exemption. And if this moves forward, it would impact a stretch of 9 counties So this would be from Douglas to Larimer, and drivers would have to pay for this more expensive gas during the summer because that is when smog is at its worst, and it would start in May of 2024. We're live in Denver this morning. I'm Christian Lopez, Denver 7.
Yeah, and that we do have the one refinery here in town, and it can be reformatted to make that reformulated gasoline. It's just going to take, they don't have enough capacity to create enough that we would need along the Front Range, so they have to pipe it in. That would cost more money, and it does cost a little bit more. California's been using that type of gas for about 25 years or so. This is the northbound side of I-225, and you do have some delays. Obviously, we do have a crash here between 17th and Colfax, and that's why this delay is about 25 to 30 minutes coming up from Mississippi, so some of the side streets might be a better option. As Lisa, we're still trying to clear up all lanes.
And we're in for what's going to be a sunny drive. That eastbound route, very bright, lots of sunshine this morning. Your out the door forecast, it will be at about 70 degrees here by 9 o'clock, climbing another 10 degrees by noon, hitting a high near 90 later today. So dry, warm today, a better chance of storms tomorrow. We'll take a closer look at that Thursday forecast on the Super 7 Day coming up.
Well, a teenage pilot is wrapping up an epic adventure. Look at that, coming in for a perfect landing, the new world record he could set today.
On a field, nonetheless.
And here's a warning no car owner wants to hear. Don't park in your own driveway. We'll tell you about the risk some models of Kia and Hyundai could have.
Also, forget buying you a drink here. T-Pain is only going to do that after you finish his new cycling class, the audition he put on for Peloton.